presentation, etc. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, it's fine. Yes,
it's fine. Thank you. I just have a question about the slides. Shall we share our screens to project our slides?
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Okay, I guess we can start. It's noon in Moscow, and somewhere it's morning, somewhere it's afternoon. So my name is Alexander Sokolov. I'm representing HSC University. I'm deputy director of Institute for Statistical Studies, Economics of Knowledge. I'm also director of HSC Foresight Center and chairholder of UNESCO Chair on Future Studies. Let me express my gratitude to everybody who joined us this symposium. We start with this session, our symposium, which is called Foresight in a Rapidly Changing World. It will consist of 5 sessions. This is the first one, which is called Foresight and Addressing Grand Challenges. This symposium is a part of Yasin, we call it Yasin April International Academic Conference, which we've been organizing our university for 25 years now. It's 25th conference, and so I look forward because we have so many good speakers from more or less 15 different states, and so I wish you, all of you, all the best during this event. Each speaker will have 15 to 20 minutes, 15 plus few minutes for questions and answers, and I will be following the time and will be letting you know if you are speaking too long. So I guess we can start now. Everybody can ask his or her questions via chat, which we had in our Zoom. And so we start with our first presentation, I guess, which will be made by Dr. Yulia Milchina from HEC University. She's deputy head of our Foresight Center. And her presentation will be devoted to grand challenges and wild cards for the future. So Yulia, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues. Alexandra, thank you for the possibility to present my slides here. 1 minute, I will demonstrate my screen. Okay. I'll share. Yes. Is okay? Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay, we can see.
Okay, great. So thank you so much again. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to present our work about grand challenges and wildcards for the future. We stand at crossroads where predictable global challenges collide with unpredictable disruptions. Today, we'll explore how these forces reshape our future and how we can prepare. We live in an era of unprecedented uncertainty where long-standing global systems are being tested by converging crises. Rising anxiety reflects fundamental truths. The world is becoming more volatile, more complex, and of course, less predictable. Multiple destabilizing forces, geopolitical, technological, environmental, and economic, are accelerating simultaneously, creating a perfect storm of disruption. First, geopolitical polarization is deepening. Trust in international institutions is eroding. Like alliances are shifting, and strategic competition between major powers is intensifying. This fragmentation makes coordinated global responses to shared challenges such as climate change or pandemics increasingly difficult, of course. At the same time, dangerous climate changes are no longer a distant threat, but a present reality. Second, the digital revolution, the rise of artificial intelligence, automation, and big data is transforming the whole industries, labor markets, and even human cognition. This rapid technological progress also brings severe risks such as disinformation, cyber threats, and ethical dilemmas about machine autonomy and other things. The volume of information overwhelms public discourse, making it harder to distinguish truth from manipulation. As well, economic instability is growing, and advanced and developing economies face a potential era of stagnation, where traditional policy tools lose their effectiveness. Meanwhile, widening inequality fuels social unrest as population grow disillusioned with systems that fail to deliver stability or opportunity. So we understand that the old models no longer apply. Linear projection underestimate the compounding risks of these interconnected crises. The main question for us today, I think, is not whether these disruptions will happen or not, but how we can build resilience before they do. The time for reactive measures is over, and we need proactive adaptive system, and that starts with recognizing that just how interconnected and how fragile our global order has become. So the defining features of our contemporary crisis landscape is not just the scale of individual challenges, but how they interconnect to create systemic risks. What we face today is a complex network of interdependent threats. Where developments in one domain trigger cascading consequences across others. We see competing platforms and standards, for example, creating new digital divides. The race for technological sovereignty between major powers is fragmenting a global innovation ecosystem. Quantum computing, AI advancements promises breakthroughs, but also introduce unprecedented cybersecurity vulnerabilities and ethical dilemmas. The digital transformation of education and workforce systems struggles to keep pace, creating mismatches between human capital and market demand. Demographic shifts present another layer of complexity. For example, aging population in developed nations contrast with rising population and rising youth population in developing economies, driving migration pressures and while straining pension and healthcare system. These demographic changes intersect with mental health crises, rising rates of anxiety and depression that some researchers link to digital overload and societal uncertainty. There are no more isolated problems. A breakthrough in quantum computing could disrupt financial markets overnight. A climate-related crop failure could trigger migration flows that overwhelm social systems, social stability. An age-driven labor market shock could lead to inequality or political instability. This systemic perspective sets the stage for our subsequent discussion of wildcards, because it's precisely at these points of interconnection that an unexpected event can have the most devastating consequences, and where we must focus on early warning system. What is a wildcard? The concept of wildcards represent a fundamental challenge to traditional forecasting methods. These low probability, high impact events defy our standard predictive frameworks. Yet, their potential consequences make them impossible to ignore. What might once have been dismissed as a statistical anomalous now demand serious strategic consideration. Wildcards are distinguished by four key attributes that make them particularly disruptive. First, their low probability of occurrence means they often fall outside standard risk assessment. Second, the significant impact can fundamentally alter strategic trajectories for organizations or societies or sectors. Third, the difficulty of detection stems from how they challenge conventional mental models. Finally, the transformative influence can permanently reshape our understanding of what is possible or not. The academic foundation for wildcards emerged in the late 20th century, and what began as a niche area of future studies now has gained urgency in our volatile era. For example, the COVID pandemic serving as a reminder that Black Swans events are not theoretical construct, but concrete reality. The critical insight isn't that we can predict specific wildcard. By definition, we can't. Rather, the value lies in developing organizational muscles for anticipating the unexpected, recognizing that in an interconnected world, what begins as outlier event can quickly become the defining reality. The dramatic growth in wildcard research over the past 2 decades reflects a fundamental shift in how we understand risk and uncertainty in complex systems. What was once considered as a niche area of future studies has emerged as a a vital field of inquiry for policymakers, corporate strategists, and academic researchers. There is an exponential increase in scientific publications addressing wildcards and other related concepts. The Scopus data shows particular acceleration after 2008, suggesting that the global financial crisis served as a wild card, shocking the research community into taking low probability and high impact events more seriously. Further spikes correlate with other systemic shocks, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the rise of generative artificial intelligence, and, for example, climate-related disasters. Each event driving a new waves of academic interest. The keyword analysis reveals how wildcard research has evolved from a futurist roots into a multidisciplinary endeavor. Early work focused primarily on scenario planning and risk assessment methodologies. Today, research landscape shows robust connections to, for example, complexity science, cognitive psychology, resilience engineering, or political science. This growing body of research provides both a warning and opportunity. Our system remains dangerously vulnerable to wildcards despite increased awareness, but we have the opportunity. We're developing better tools to anticipate, absorb, and adapt to such disruptive changes. As we'll explore in further slides, the challenge now lies in translating this research into practical frameworks that can inform and can build real-world decision-making. What happens when grand challenges meet wildcards? We can see the following effects. First of all, systemic and cascading effects. COVID-19, for example, began as a health crisis, but rapidly affected economies, supply chains, and social systems. Also, we have unprecedented complexity. The overlap between persistent grand challenges and sudden wildcards has intensified the operational complexity, making traditional risk management insufficient. This new risk environment demands integrated, holistic strategies that can adapt to fast evolving threats. Also, wildcards can shift political, social, and economic priorities, sometimes accelerating innovation or redirecting resource towards or away from certain grand challenges. For instance, the pandemic accelerated digital transformation and global health cooperation, but also delayed specific climate action in some regions or our struggle with economic inequality. The need for integrated multi-stakeholder responses exists because wildcards impact multiple interconnected systems. Addressing the effects on grand challenges requires coordinated action across sectors, disciplines, and governance levels. But also, this situation creates opportunities for innovations. Wildcard can also catalyze innovations and new collaborative efforts to solve grand challenges by forcing stakeholders to rethink assumptions and develop novel strategies. The interconnection of challenges and wildcards is shown on the example of new pandemic, plus the possibility to a cure of antibiotic-resistant superbug. While pandemics test healthcare systems, the simultaneous emergence of a drug-resistant bacterial infection could render standard treatment useless, leading to unprecedented mortality and social disruption. So we may prepare now. We may build the preparedness strategies. And through the global surveillance systems, through the research in area of alternatives to antibiotics, and, for example, One Health approach on the global scale. The unprecedented complexity, of course, demands a fundamental rethinking of traditional foresight approaches. This slide presents our framework for next generation strategic forecasting that bridges the gap between predictable trends and unpredictable disruptions. The methodology outlined here represents not just new tools, but a fundamental shift in strategic mindset. In an era where change occurs not linearly, but through cascading disruptions, foresight must evolve from predicting probabilities to building preparedness, from forecasting the future to creating resilient systems capable of weathering multiple possible futures. So we have different methods here appropriate in such conditions, such as scenarios, expert research, intelligent advanced big data analytic modeling. In our project, we use difficult mathematical models with our department. Also, we have wildcard analysis. We analyze different grand challenges and trends with the help of STPP analysis to see the whole picture of the systemic view of these threats. Also, we have consensus forecasts and situational analysis.
1 minute left, Yuri.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. We should build early warning system for wildcards, of course, to minimize the potential negative effect and to maximize the positive opportunities. We use different advanced methods, such as intellectual big data analytics and expert procedures, in order to detect and to assess objectively the possibility of wildcards realization and their effects. So as a result of these efforts, we have the new methodological approach for detecting them, the effective monitoring system, and new approaches to reduce negative externalities of wildcard occurrence. We use different types of analytical visualization, such as semantic or trend maps, or the radar of wildcards, which allow us to see the whole picture of them. So I will just briefly show our classification model of wildcards. We assess time, cause, ability to predict, and reaction and effects for each our wildcard, and we integrated an analysis of wildcards into almost every of our project. And for this purpose, we have created a system for monitoring them. We annually update and supplement the database of these events. Now we have more than 300 events described on one temple, and we focused on wildcards in several sectors this year, for example, on digital technologies, agriculture, transport and logistics. And each year we updated the system and implement the wildcard analysis in almost all our projects. The latest, one of the key projects of our institute is about the development of global science and its institutional blocks, such as research cycles, actors, resources, etc., where we also use the wildcard analysis. And my colleague, Leona, will give a brief description of this project in her presentation as well. So that's all. Thank you for your attention, dear colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Yulia. Any questions from the audience? Please raise your hand or ask via chat. If no question, then probably in the end there will be questions. So let us continue with the next presentation, which will be made by senior researcher of our institute, Alena Nefedova. It will be devoted to the future of global science. We did during the last couple of years a big foresight study on this matter. So Alena, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, I should ask to share my screen because Yulia, could you please close your presentation?
Закройте, пожалуйста, свою презентацию.
Thank you. Just a second. Yeah, do you see my slide, colleagues?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here today. It's a really great pleasure to have the opportunity to share our results. Despite I am a presenter, I'm not, of course, I'm not the only one author of this research study. It's more than 10 research colleagues, members from our institute. Some of them are here today, and Yulia as well. Thanks for the link to this presentation. This study was, the aim of the study was to look for transformation of science under this megatrends, which Yulia already mentioned in her presentation. We were specifically look for trends which were close to our nearby future until 2030. And of course, we have looked at the previous studies, and there are some of them held by international organizations such as UNESCO or CIVER, or some other foresight research centers like NISTEP or KISTEP. So compared to these similar studies, we were looking specifically on the structural and institutional changes within the science field. We applied mixed methodology. Of course, we have used our big data system IFORA for identifying megatrends which have connection or big influence on the science and technology in general. Plus, we did a foresight study on the specific trends in science. So we have expert survey, and we selected highly cited scientists. That means they have over 100 citation adjusted by field. So it depends on the field. Sometimes it's about 700 citation for whole research career. And moreover, we apply 10 in-depth interviews with our leading Russian scientists just to have a closer look on the specific practices. For example, how these trends have an influence on their own work. Brief look on the global megatrends. Of course, Yulia already have shown this list, but I would stress specifically those which are influenced on the academia and industry. So first of all, it's some ethical issues related to technology use, some structural changes in the labor market as well in the science labor market, of course, digitalization, and we will have a lot of discussions today, next sessions for digitalization. Some other policy issues connected with the restructuring international institution, international collaboration within the science, and of course some environmental issues, because science should provide some answers to these challenges, especially, for example, for climate change or loss of biodiversity, etc. So these global trends have a shaping, have an influence shaping to the future of science. So, as I said, we try to look the science from structural perspective. So we defined 6 key elements of science system. It's research cycle, actors, resources, and R&D personnel is a very important part of the resources. So scientific results or outcomes, and policy, S&T policy. So you see here the list of trends which we identify as the most important one. I would not go into detail for each of them due to the limit of time, but we will consider each of these trends very detailed within our research. So I would bring just your attention that there is increasing complexity and rising cost of scientific endeavors. So that is why resources also, we have an overall growth in R&D funding from all of the resources. From the one side, it's more about a growing private sector investment. From other side, we have emergence of new organizational forms, that science becoming more virtual, network-based, and there like growing number of different actors which are evolving now in the science and technology development. So we asked our expert which trends they consider as the most significant on their short-term perspective up to 2030, and you see the results here. I will go specifically into 3 trends which I selected. First of all, is the first one, like development interdisciplinary research. I will skip this digitalization because we will have a lot of discussion later during this conference today. Then I will speak about interdisciplinary research skills. And again, I will skip open science development because I think a lot of you know a lot about open science, and we will have, again, discussion. And then I will go on the development of new forms of organization, including virtual ones. So let's go to interdisciplinary research. Of course, it's a very long-term trend, and more interestingly, that it appears not in science, but first in industry. And when companies trying to solve their own problems with creating new products, gaining competitiveness, trying to large scale their businesses. So here on the slides, you see early example of this R&D, interdisciplinary R&D centers within the business. Of course, it's mainly a large scale business, but still anyway, they were driving this kind of research. Then universities trying to also began this interdisciplinary research mainly by collaboration of industry with industry. And by 70s, this interdisciplinary research became a vital part for strengthening strategies of universities as a core players in the innovation ecosystems. That is why theoretical triple and quadruple helix model appears. However, there is a huge limitation within this trend, because we know that traditionally and still academia is remaining as a very disciplinary bound structure. We, as the scientists, we all know that journals, centers, dissertation committees, they are all focused on the specific field of science. And if you want to pursue an academic career, you must be within the specific discipline. But as we see, the fast-growing research discipline as a computer science or other, let's say, AI discipline, they all require interdisciplinary skills. and different approaches from different fields. So that is why science should be changing in the near perspective toward this trend. If we talk,
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
okay, yeah. If we talk about by fields, so you see like medical science researchers claim that they see a fast growing interdisciplinarity within their field. The second chosen trend connected with transferable skills. So again, connected with the previous trend, we see that there's a growing interest to transferable skills within the science, and that is why now there is a huge question how we should change or focus our PhD programs or some programs for early career researchers to bring this gap, because despite theoretical knowledge and some basic research skills within specific field, we need to have more practical oriented focus. So this is an example of industrial PhD programs. And the last one about flexible network-based approach. Of course, science is still remaining as a very rigid structural field, right? So, but we see there is a growing collaboration based on the virtual forms. There is a virtual labs is growing, cross-institutional projects, an open science platform that's required for speeding up knowledge exchange. That's why these project-based approach teams become more and more popular. And there is an example of growing number of consortia which combine different perspectives and different institutional frameworks. To sum up, we see that megatrends shaping science, because science is a part of our society, and we see that these global trends connected with the digitalization, demographic shifting, really have a huge impact on the science. That's why this research landscape is changing to more flexible and open models. And we see that it requires a specific set of skills for researchers to answer to these structural changes, like adaptability, collaboration skills, and working with industry. So more results within the book, of course, due to very limited time. I just covered a very small part of it, and I will happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay, Alyona, thank you very much. Any questions from the audience? Please. Not yet. I don't see. Okay.
I would like to ask a question, but I
Yes,
have
please.
found the, okay, I think it is here, React, yeah. What is the basis of your claim that industry has started interdisciplinary research earlier than in academia? I'm asking this question because my understanding is that physics, chemistry, probably biology as well, so and also social sciences, they have always used math and statistics. So in a sense, we can think of interdisciplinary research in that respect, but probably it's questionable. The other remark is that I think it is a bit too bold to claim that academia and industry are increasingly converging. On the one hand, academia is a broad term on its own, because at academic organizations, we conduct various types of research, including basic research. Of course, some big companies are also conducting basic research, but still the norms, the fundamental norms, the rules of the game, ethical, financial, business, all sorts of rules, so various aspects of the broad set of norms, in my view, are still strikingly different and probably would stay strikingly different. it doesn't mean that academia industry collaboration is not important, or perhaps not, but perhaps it would becoming even more important, but claiming that they would converge, I think this is too bold a claim.
Thank you very much for your comments and questions. Let me start with the second one. It's not only about converging, it's also about, maybe you heard about academic capitalism discussion, like that academia institutions becoming more similar or look-alike business organizations, right? Like entrepreneurial universities, etc., etc. So it's not about convergence per se, but it's like more closing similarity to each other. So that's why it's also due to the like decreasing financial resources, of course. So there is a huge discussion why it's happening, and at the same time, industry also starting to have within R&D centers growing need for their own competencies. So they're trying to solve their research questions by their own resources, because collaboration need also some energy, extra time, etc. So that means not only about converging to each other, but that industry research R&D organizations becoming more and more similar to academic organizations, so about corporate universities, right? But it's not that they're becoming very similar, but it means that they have some characteristics to each other. But of course, it's discussable point. You can have another option, opinion, so we can have like an additional discussion at that point. About interdisciplinarity, of course, sociology also use math, statistics, and so on. It's really evident. But there is a interdisciplinarity means that we have a need to have a connectedness of different even norms or even theory conceptions, right? Within the sociological or psychological, I know, whatever discipline we can take in account, we have specific view on how we should claim, ask questions, how we should answer them. There is a methodological traditions. Interdisciplinary research means that we are connecting different traditions to answer very difficult and complex questions. So that was the meaning. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one more question from Anastasia Kim. Could you ask it, please?
Yeah, of course. Can you please elaborate more on the slide with this domain trend? How did you get these shares? Did the trends represent the results of the experts? And the expert, where is the topic trends opinion diverge? Yes, you're right, absolutely right, Anastasia. There was the results from the question. We asked to pick up the 5 main trends by their own perspective. So it's from the expert survey. And diverge. You mean the most controversial trends, right? Or am I right?
You're right. Thank you.
Yeah. The most controversial, again, was about development of open science, because some of the experts believe that we are for going for this direction, but from the other hand, we have a huge discussion about technological sovereignty and like closing the results. So that was the most one of the most discussable point. And there are some other controversial trends, of course. Within the book, we discussed each of them in more detail. One, but it was about mainly openness and sovereignty in terms of technology development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. No more questions. We have probably one more, if there are any. If no, then thank you very much, Alena, for your presentation. Our next, sorry. Our next presentation will be made by Fabian Bonimon, from the Research Center for Future Studies, Projective,
Yes.
from France.
Yep.
Fabian, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Alexander, and well, thank you to the organizer and mostly Alexander and the team around him for organizing this new 25th, you said, conference on foresight. It's really important to be together to think about that and to share our results. So I'm really glad to be with you this morning. Thank you. My point for once will not be technical and kind of very different from the previous one, but it's more about the mindset itself and what we need to really do foresight and to be able to implement a kind of a new world. So the thing is that what we are seeing today, oops, sorry, I have some issue here. Sorry, coming back. Okay, that's it. So what we are seeing today is clearly the main lines of what I would call a bleak future, driven by three scaling laws. The first scaling law is carbon. Carbon, it means from fossil energy to climate change, leading to a hotter planet. The second one is about silicium. Silicium is something that makes, large language system, generative artificial intelligence available to everyone, almost for free, and able to compete with humans from translation to science itself. And finally, the last scaling law is disorder. This is what we are seeing from economic and democratic crisis to geopolitical conflicts. So we can reasonably wonder how to get the strength to change this future. To understand our present and anticipate the future, we must first adopt a broader perspective, what we called in our jargon, big picture. Only by zooming out can we begin to see the patterns that shape our trajectory and the forces that have brought us to where we are now. Doing so, three major drivers of change appear. The first one is change itself. Change is not an anomaly. Change is a natural condition of human evolution and of everything which is live. Society themselves evolve through ongoing shifts in technology. I would say this is the first wave. And disruptive technologies bring us acceleration of the trends, leapfrog in what we are doing, and so on. The second main wave of change is about values and about what it means to be human, to be part of a society, and to develop ourselves as persons, as individuals. And finally, the last wave of change is about the planet itself. And because the planet is changing and we ourselves are increasing its way of changing and more or less we are worsening this. So constantly we have these three structural waves of evolution that wash us and make us evolve. I would say the second main driver of change is the so-called Great Transition. The Great Transition is about the fact that one world is dying, becoming obsolete, while another one is trying to emerge. A strong resistance to change tries to slow it down, clearly. But despite this, we are entering in a phase of acceleration, which is, I think, obvious to everyone. In this era of exponentiality, that some would call the VUK square, transformation happen faster than our institution and even ourselves can adapt. And all this transformation converge in, again, in waves, kind of chaotic waves, giving rise to the so-called polycrisis, which is an overlapping of different crises arriving more or less at the same time that will create a very quick state of chaotic situation that we cannot easily solve. And from this, the image of the future that is now coming kind of mainstream is that clearly the future won't be what it used to be, and that this world is no longer a sustainable world. So faced with this complexity, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel pessimistic, to feel depressed. But I mean, and Lulia just before me clearly developed this. But the question is, does this mean that we are doomed? Of course, the answer you want me to say, and that I will say, is no, we are not doomed, clearly, because we have reasons for hope. Not by kind of blind optimism or naiveness, but for three objective reasons. The first one is that it is not the first time that humanity has gone through such a great transition. And we can testify here, all of us, that we survived it. The second one is that the human species is by definition highly adaptable, and that's the reason why we are at the top of the food chain. And the third one is that we are aware. This time we are aware of what is happening, which means that we can do something. Moreover, three evidences grounded in real observable shifts suggest that we are already moving towards a new horizon. The first evidence, and maybe the most powerful, is that a new mindset is emerging. Across disciplines, generations, and cultures, we are witnessing the rise of this change. More and more people are recognizing that the ways we used to think, produce, and govern no longer serve the complexity of our time. This is not just an intellectual shift. It is even deeper. It's an emotional and a spiritual as well shift. Younger generation are not just asking, what do I do? What do I want to do? But what kind of world do I want to co-create with my affinity community? So we are far beyond something just pessimistic. We can see creative minorities becoming really to experiment new ways of living, producing, and communicating together. So this change of mindset is not marginal, it is transformative. It affects how we teach, how we invest, how we measure success, and how we relate to nature and to one another. So we are moving, clearly, we are on the move, on the run, from ego to eco, from linear to circular, from extraction to regeneration. This is how a new model of development is taking shape. We are slowly, but surely, moving away from the outdated model of infinite growth on a finite planet. Across the world, new economic and governance models are being tested, such as the donut economics or the well-being economic government alliance. They seek to balance flexibility and adaptation of our processes, rationalization of resources and uses, a policy design based on facts and science, justice and ethics, collective intelligence, and devolution of powers. In this vision, anticipatory governance, decentralized technologies, and ecological awareness are becoming central. Most of those emergencies are synthesized in the X.0 development model, which aims to simultaneously prioritize humans and nature. It does so while maximizing two major meta-trends impacting the system: planetization on one hand and exponentiality in the other one. All of this being based on an active anticipatory governance. The implementation of such a systemic model is becoming increasingly straightforward, largely due to the advancement in what is more than a tool, artificial intelligence. From extended reality to 3D printing to the blockchain, AI and robotics are the game changers that help to revolutionize the way we process, better adapt things and processes to people needs, and save resources and limit waste as well. So maybe we have a chance now to really shape the world we would like, because we have a new ally to do so. And the third, last but not least, and perhaps the most symbolic shift, comes from the global level of governance. The United Nations has recently promoted what is called the Quintet of Change. It's a set of 5 core capacities that must be developed to face the future. Among them is foresight, as the capacity to anticipate change, imagine alternative futures, and design strategies for resilience and transformation. After more than 70 years of work in future studies, foresight is finally being recognized not as a luxury or academic curiosity, but as a critical skill for leadership, policymaking, education, and community resilience. This signals a profound shift. We are no longer just reacting to change, we are about to prepare it, shape it, and co-design it. So, what do we do with this hope? We are living through a rare historical moment, a convergence of crises that marks not the end of civilization, but the painful birth of a new one. Whether this transition becomes a collapse or a renaissance depends on our ability to connect imagination with action, urgency with reflection, realism with hope. Hope is not a passive emotion. It's an act of responsibility. It means choosing to engage, even when the outcomes are uncertain. It means rejecting fatalism, not because we are naive, but because we are committed to life. We now know what to do. This is the issue. But more importantly, and this is the issue of agency, we know how to do it. Because each group in society has a distinct role to play. Scholars must understand, anticipate, and propose. They can do so only if they break disciplinary silos and engage with the real world, entrepreneurs, and communities. Decision makers must change their mindset, act instead of talk, and be prepared for what next. They will have to invest in human and ecological capital and be ready for the unexpected. And finally, citizens must exercise their agency, develop their foresight capacity, and resist the temptation of cynicism or pessimism by cultivating their hope for the future. So hope in this context is not just a denial of reality. It is a recognition of potential. It is the conviction that another future is possible because we are already beginning to build it. This is precisely the purpose of foresight. Reveal this future in the making. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fabiana. I always admire your beautiful presentations, like in the cinema. Okay, so please, questions from audience. Are there any? Maybe I will start then. Okay, I enjoyed very much your slide about change of mindset. What do you think? Which values will be? I will start from the other point first. Yeah, we usually values, human values, they are changing from one generation to another. Now I guess it's a bit different. The changes of values are much more rapid. Sometimes within one generation there are significant changes we can see. What do you think? What will be the key changes in human values in next decade, probably 10, 15, 20 years, which will really influence on everything?
Well, I wouldn't say that. Oops, sorry. I wouldn't say that there is. I don't think it is a generational change. This is the point. I think that really what we have is a mutation. I mean, you're right. Every generation used to bring some differences, but what we are seeing now is the emergence of what is called the alien generation. The alien generation are people, it is not about generation X, Y, or Z, or Alpha, or whatsoever. It is about the generation born in the end of the 80s, more or less, in the developed countries. And when the various studies we made about them show that all over the world, they present the same specification. First, they are collaborative more than competitive, which is a huge change. The second, the fact of working itself is a necessity. They understand this, but it is no longer their life. They will not put their life, their energy into work. It is a little bit as if they are already preparing themselves for working with AI. They won't put much energy in it, and they won't put much of inventivity or creativity in working according to the traditional model of work that we are having now. They prefer to go to startups, to go to even to permaculture, for example, or this kind of low-level job, I would say, but where they have the feeling that what they are doing is meaningful, and they need to make sense of what they see and understand, they need to give their efforts, their energy, a meaning, to do something. So I think that to answer your values, they have more feminine value, I would say, than traditional masculine one. They are more synthetic than analytic. They develop more cooperation, I said, than competition, more intuition even than logic, which is also an issue, clearly. More integration of disciplines than specialization, and maybe more emotion, more empathy than rationalization. I mean, in all of this, you have, in the same time, good things, but also bad things. It's life.
Okay, thank you very much. I see a question from Attila Havash.
Yeah,
Attila, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I think Fabian's presentation was an excellent example to show that foresight is not a synonym for forecasting and future studies. From my point of view, it is somewhat unfortunate and not really healthy that the previous two presentations use these terms, again, future studies, forecasting, and foresight as interchangeable ones. But as Fabian's pointed out, foresight is about shaping the future. It has the intention to shape the future. Therefore, it is important to consider multiple futures, not to try to forecast the future. And the other important difference is that foresight is not an academic discipline. It is an action-oriented activity. So the idea is to bring together stakeholders, representatives of various stakeholder groups, discuss the current situation, discuss possible futures. And of course, when we are doing that, when we are exploring possible futures, possible multiple futures, then we might well use forecasting, we might well use wildcards, we might well use various other methods of the broad, big family of forward-looking activities or prospective analysis, or the ones used by future studies as an academic discipline. So I'm not saying that there is a Chinese wall between these, but still these terms are not interchangeable, they are not synonyms. And it is really crucial not only for pure academic purposes, not only for the so-called ivory tower. It is very important because when we try to convince clients or stakeholders, then it is very important to give them a clear view what can and what cannot be expected from the various approaches. So again, it is not my intention to dismiss any of these approaches. My intention is to draw your attention that there is a big family of forward-looking activities. The family members are all important. They can serve crucial, fundamental objectives. But I think it is very important to be clear about the meaning, about the content, about the essence of these various types of approaches, activities for ourselves, first of all, but at least as importantly for the various partners, not last for the clients, potential clients who are on the one hand paying for the activities, because these activities are requesting time and other resources, and also hopefully they have the intention to act upon the recommendations, the insights coming from these various activities. When I started working on foresight, both in terms of being participant in foresight activities, but also as an analyst on various foresight and other types of forward-looking activities, I learned this wonderful term. As far as I remember, I've never heard that term before, expectation management. And I think this is really crucial. So it is not just for academic purposes that I try to ask you to be more precise, more strict, more rigid even when you are using terms. But as I said, it is not only for academic purposes, it is for the potential or actual clients on the one hand, and all other partners who are involved in these various activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Attila. I guess it wasn't a question yet, more
Yeah,
kind
it
of
was partly a
intervention.
comment, partly a plea.
Okay, good. We have another
I agree.
question from Anna Grebenyuk. Anna, are you with us?
Hello, Fabian. Thank you a lot for your very interesting presentation. My question is somehow connected with Attila's comment, because as for me, hope is something personal. It's a personal feelings, and I want to ask you, what do you think about personal foresight, not foresight, national foresight, business foresight, something like this? Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Anna. This is a very interesting question because it has been now 40 years that I'm working in the field of foresight, and this is a recurrent question. So it's interesting because, I mean, the French foresight, called prospective, is really based on kind of social laws saying that you can only address the future of a group when you do foresight. So I would say, and respecting Attila exigence of precision, I would say that you cannot have individual foresight within the field of the French perspective and the concepts and practices of the French perspective. But now you have something called personal futures, mainly coined by Verne Wheelwright, an American futurist, and he has been working all his life on personal futures and the fact that people can do foresight for themselves. So if you ask me what I think of that, I cannot think anything of something that I do not know. Because my school of thought is just that you cannot shape the future for yourself without involving others. So for me, the future is collective. The future in the terms of foresight, in the concept of foresight, can only be collective. But yet to make a loop with what you are saying, hope is personal. But hope can be triggered by your environment. And if you look at, for example, this stupid thing about anorexia promoted by TikTok, and with so many young women, young teens dying of anorexia around the world, just because on TikTok it's a fashion, it means that, well, you can more or less do whatever you want with people as soon as you become viral. So let's just imagine for 1 second that foresight would become viral. What could we do? We can absolutely change the world from 0 to something entirely different.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. No, it was a very nice discussion. Unfortunately, we're limited in time, so
Yeah, sure.
we have to go to the next discussion, to the next speaker,
Thank you.
which is Shanita Visuwanathan from Malaysian Industry Government Group for High Technology from Malaysia. Yeah, it's about transition futures, anticipating change, Malaysia approach in increasing future preparedness for the climate and demographic transition. So, Shanita, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. Very glad to see you here. I guess you're muted. Now it's fine. Yeah.
All right. Can you see my slide?
Not yet.
All right. Still no? Let me retry again.
Yes, please.
How about now?
It's fine now. Yes, please.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Dr. Alexander, and thank you to the organizer for inviting Mike to participate in this symposium today. My name is Shaita Viswanathan. I will be presenting on the transitioning futures, anticipating change, using foresight for future preparedness. So what I will be presenting today will be covered in 3 parts. The first thing is I will talk about MITE, about what is MITE about, and then about our institute, about the Malaysian Foresight Institute, and then I'll show an example of what we have been doing in Foresight, our recent work, right? If you can't see my slide, just please inform me, and if you can't hear my voice, also please inform me, right? Okay, so about the Malaysia Industry Government Group for High Technology. So we are actually a partnership technology think tank that was established in 1993 to undertake the foresight and future studies. We were appointed to play an important role to bring in industry players together to anticipate and identify emerging technological problems and also to find application of technologies for their solutions. This was why the initiated of MITE in 1993. So right now, we are a government agency under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We are located in a state in Selangor, Malaysia, all right? So what do we do in MITE? Our strategic roles among it is we are strategic advisor to government and industry. We do a lot of things regarding the national policies. We also play actively in nurturing investing in technology companies, especially on high technology. And we also create platforms for technology and innovation clusters. Our focus areas mostly is on industry development. We spear new industries. Currently, one of our current look into is we are looking into the advanced air mobility ecosystem for Malaysia's future. We work a lot on mobility, on aerospace, on the rail, also on the shipbuilding and ship repair. We are also actively involved in sustainable development technologies. We usually look into emerging technologies in sustainable development and how can we use it for application, in example, in smart city and so on. And also we are actively involved in foresight. We also provide capacity building for foresight for government officers. We also do a lot of foresight study for the country. All right, so that is what. So we have been around for the past 32 years. We have contributed a lot in our broad-based multi-ministerial policy formulation, facilitation and engagements. So among the things that might have done so far is we have been, other than being involved in foresight studies, we have done a lot of involvement in our national blueprints. We have also been involved in talent development. We also look into how to prioritize technologies for the country and how also to advance technology for the country's economic growth. And also we do a lot on technology entrepreneurship and identifying how to grow industrial technology park. So this is what we have been doing actively for the past 32 years. Now bringing you to what is the Malaysian Foresight Institute where we are here. So the Malaysian Foresight Institute was developed or established in 2012, that is 13 years ago. So we were established to be a renowned foresight center that integrates ideas and promote network across a broad spectrum of individual, futurists, and private think tanks, academic establishments. Our main role is to undertake foresight projects to guide policy decisions and also to mainstream foresight and future thinking into the government. So our role in foresight is for us to harness in knowledge on foresight methodologies and networks to enhance the future planning for the country through our strategic trust in MITE. So strategic trust 1, where we explore the future possibility for better decision making. We use a lot of that for national policies purpose, and also for capacity building in foresight and future thinking through our strategy 2. All right. So we're actually quite a small group of people. There's a group of 8 of us, but we come from a mixed background of transdisciplinary background. So this contributes to the development of us in numerous impact studies, roadmaps, blueprints, and strategic policy plans. All right. So if you'd like to know more on our My Foresight, you can also look into our website and also our Facebook. So that was our covering on My Foresight. Today, I'd like also to share on one of our recent work. So we just recently finished on this study, and this report has been launched in July 2024. This was a study that we did with the, it's a co-development project between MITE and the UNDP Malaysia. It's on socio-economic futures of Malaysia's climate and demographic transition. So this is where we look into two grand challenges, that is demographic transition and also on the climate change. How will both of these combinations impact Malaysia socially and also economically? Malaysia right now, we actually have about 7% of our aging population above 65 years old, and it's projected that by 2040, this number will double. So then we have about 15% of Malaysians that's going to be 65 years old and above. So, and at the same time, Malaysia is also aspiring to transit to a net zero emission country by 2050. So with new opportunities arising, we also be displacing some of our industries. So we're also looking into how will this, together with the combination of climate change that's happening, how will it impact our country and Malaysians on the whole, socially and economically. So what we did first was we looked into the confluence of the climate change trends and the demographic trends, and where does this area intersects. So through the intersection that we have looked into, we identified 19 areas of confluences where the climate and demographic changes will intersect, and this will provide a multiplier consequences that can have significant implications on society, economy, environment, and regulatory. Okay. And then what we did was we identified 8 key drivers that will shape the Malaysian's climate and demographic transition, and we developed 3 different possible scenarios for this transition. The first one that we developed was on just transition, the best case scenario, where climate adaptation and mitigation together with demographic transition are equally addressed, that realize the best outcome for Malaysia's sustainable development. The sharp transition that we look into is a disruptive scenario where climate and demographic crisis happens and it catalyzes an urgent adaptation where it will suddenly require us to implement a stopgap measure that will cause other unintended consequences. And the third one was on failed transition, where a worst case scenario where Malaysia grapples with climate change and aging population. And this will cause inability to adapt transition ineffectively. Hence, when we developed these 3 scenarios, one of the things that we looked into was, with these scenarios happening, what will be the future implications on Malaysia socially and economically? So what we did was, we did a stakeholders engagement across the whole Malaysia. Malaysia has about 13 states, and we met people from different societal segments, asking them, if this scenario happens, these 3 scenarios happen, what will be the implication in your society in terms of the economic structures and labor market, and also in well-being of elderly and their families. And based on the engagement we had, the participatory engagements that we had, we identified 161 potential future implications in 6 economic areas. That is the economic shifts, the labor market restructuring, the fiscal sustainability, healthcare system, quality of life, and climate disasters. And what we, when we analyzed, we looked into it, most of the potential future implications will have high impact on Malaysians. So what we did next was, we looked into our current policies in Malaysia, our current governance structure in Malaysia, prepared to face any of this scenario that happens. So what we did was, we looked into 49 national acts and 61 national policies that's related to the climate transition and demographic transition. And we identified about 486 policy strategies that's related to this climate transition and demographic transition. And from there, we found that most of these strategies, most of it are looking into regulatory and policies, but there's least looking into funding incentives, and that's what we had. And also what we looked into was, when we did the participatory stakeholders engagement, we also asked them what was their main concern. If this scenario happens, what was their main concern? So from the top 5 scenarios, concerns that we got was on their awareness of the climate and demographic change, the climate and demographic governance. That was their concern. If these things happens, are we adequate to address it? Retirement, climate change, and food security. So what we realized was from this policy analysis was we have strong governance and regulatory focus. However, there is something potential for red tape. And currently, Malaysia does emphasize a lot on developing and utilizing talent, but we have less strategies looking into the aging talent. So one more thing, we also found that we have multiple efforts in awareness of climate and wind change, but there is not much, there is still awareness, more room still that we can work on. So what we, from this policy analysis, next thing we did was we took these 486 policy strategies and we did a wind tunneling against the 3 scenarios that we have developed. So from there, what we found was that from the in economic structures and labor markets, for the green economic shifts, we have a significant level of preparedness, labor market and restructuring. We are moderate. We are still improvising on our governance structure. However, we have low fiscal sustainability. So that's a concern because although we have all the governance structure, everything in place, the policies are all in place, but when it comes to funding, there is a problem that we need to work on. And in well-being of elderly and their families, in the term of the healthcare system, we are moderately, we have our policies ready, but we still need to work on improvising it to prepare for the future preparedness of the possible scenarios that could occur. Similarly, for the quality of life, we also need, we are moderate level, and we need to also look at how, for Malaysia's government structure, is how to come up with more government structure that's more robust to withstand any climate disasters that's happening. So based on this wind tunneling test that we did and the level of preparedness that we managed to assess through the policymakers and so on that we did, we came up with 8 transition enablers that could be used as a references for stakeholders for them to achieve just transition. So the report outlines these 8 just transition that we have identified and 40 strategic consideration that can be used for us to improvise or to strengthen our future preparedness against climate transition and the wave transition. And with that, I would like to also inform that this report also could be used to build resilience and future preparedness across multiple stakeholders. So what we did was, when we prepared this report, the output of the report, we also prepared according to the what that can be adopted by the government for anticipatory policymaking. Industry players, what they can see from this report is something that the future opportunities and mitigating risks that they can see from the list of the future implications that we have listed out. And for academia research, there is possible exploration for them for solutions for the future challenges that we have outlined in the report, and for communities and citizens for them to understand what's happening, to create awareness on them of the confluence of these 2 mega trends, and also empowering their communities to face or to strengthen them in case any of these scenarios happens. And this is a copy of a report. If anybody's interested to know on the report of us that we have done, it's available here. You can have a look at it. And that's all from us. Let's have a conversation.
Okay, thank you so much. It was brilliant presentation. Yeah, I liked it very much. Any questions from audience? If no questions yet, I will ask the first one. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Could you please? Many issues in your report were related to policy mechanism, regulation, and so on. Did you engage from the very beginning policymakers into your study? Because this is
Yes.
important. And
yes.
who were they? From which agencies, and what was their contribution there?
Actually, the wind tunneling test that I showed us now the results. So actually, Malaysia has about 25 ministries. So we actually engaged with 20 ministries out of 25 ministries. These are ministries that's involved in developing and monitoring policies related to climate change, demographic transition, labor market, well-being of the elderly, and so on. So we actually again, from the 25 ministries, so we have engaged 20 ministries. So that's one-fifth, about 4/5 of the ministry that we've engaged. The one that we didn't engage was more of those who were involved, not related to the confluence of the climate change and demographic transition that we saw from our work.
Okay.
And we have actually engaged them throughout the study. From the time we were building the scenarios, developing the scenarios, we actually engaged all the societal segments. So when we meant all the societal segment of Malaysians, it means industry players, academic and researchers, even citizens, because we also need their inputs, because every different states have different issues. So we also they also participated in our workshops, and policymakers. So I can say that we try to be inclusive as possible.
Thank you so much. So we have a question from Fabian. Fabian, please go ahead. You are muted. Fabian, you are muted.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying thank you, Shanita. It was really fascinating to hear you. And I have just two questions. The first one is, how do you succeed to engage education? I mean, do you have programs and courses in university about foresight? And how you train your people in foresight? Because obviously, yeah, you need to have many futurists with you. So I would like to know about that. And my second point is about evaluation. I mean, you are talking about evaluating preparedness. So is it an auto evaluation? I mean, people will evaluate themselves, or do you have committee to evaluate them? Okay, those are the two questions. Thanks.
All right, great. Okay. Back to the first question about foresight. Yes, in Malaysian universities, there are programs, or not to say the whole program per se, modules in certain programs, like the technology management program. So they do cover on foresight. So there are selected universities that's covering on foresight, but that is for students. Those are for undergraduate students. When it comes to the working world, working adults, so for us in MITE, we are known as the Malaysian Foresight Institute. So we are recognized as a national level Foresight Institute. We do a lot of capacity building for government officers. We also do for private companies that are interested to learn more on foresight and how to use foresight in their organization. We also do for communities if they're interested to know more. And right now, not only that, we are also external reviewers for the university students that are doing foresight projects. So every year, we become their external reviewer of their projects. So that's number one on how we do our capacity building. Number two, on the wind tunneling test. So what we did was we engaged the policymakers, those who were involved in formulating of the policies. So that's now mentioned that we covered about 49 national acts and 486 policy strategies. So we went to the owners, the owner who were involved in the development of these acts and these policies. And then we asked them to assess if this scenario happens, will your policies, strategies, and your acts able to withstand, adapt, or will it not be able to go through if these scenarios happen? So those are people who are more, they know about their strategies. So we ask them to assess those strategies based on the scenarios that we have developed. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see more questions. I have many, but maybe next time, yeah, because we are run out of time. Maybe I will finish at this point. I just wanted to tell you that this session was devoted to grand challenges, and grand challenges. This is the how to say, the issue which is the issues which are not which we cannot resolve within one country. This is a very important point, and I guess that the conference where we can hear people from different places of the world is very important to see what people think about the future what are the priorities for them, what the values they see as important for ordinary people. And I guess we should organize such events more often, and we will know more about each other, and we'll be able to do more for our planet, for our countries, for ourselves. Okay, at this point probably I will finish. Thank you so much. I invite you in 1 hour. We'll have the next session, which will be also very interesting. I invite all of you. Please be there. It was a great pleasure to see all of you, especially my old friends here. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.